Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about conditional statements and decision making. As you know, in most programming languages, the main command, right, or the main tool is ifs. If, else. And of course, it's no different in C++. So that's the first and the most important thing that we're going to learn, but there are a couple of other things that we are going to learn in this video. One of them is called the ternary or question mark operator, and the other one, which you see probably in some other languages, the switch statement. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here, let's say we want to write a simple program that you give it a number for the month of the year from 1 starting with January and 12 for December, and it tells you how many days exist in that month. And so what you need to get from the user is, of course, a number for the month. What it needs to return is the number of days, okay? And then you can also ask about whether the year is a leap year or not. Now, in this case, I'm not returning the variable days. I'm just typing it or showing it on the screen. Therefore, this days is redundant for me. But if you want, you can also have your program or your function return that days. In my case, it's redundant, so I can go ahead and get rid of it. And all my program needs is a month and a leap year. So the first thing my program does, ask, hey, what is the number for the month of the year provided for me? And see in the month, then it is asking, is it a leap year or not? Yes or no. And if they enter a small y, that means yes. If it's a small n, that means no. And then you see in the leap year. And leap year is a character because it's either y or n. And month is an integer because it's 1 to 12. Now here is the structure of if, else that I have for what? For the decision making. So what is this? I say if the month is 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 12. If any of these 7 months is the number, then that month has, of course, 31 days. So you see I'm using or because it could be any of them. And I'm combining each one of these basically logical statements, or I would say a logical variable or Boolean variable. I'm ORing them, and then the final result of everything should be inside what? A single parentheses. So the single parentheses that you see on the left and the right side of the highlighted area is what you put your final number. So if it's 1, then this statement is going to run. If it's not 1, then it goes down to the else if part. So if your month is any of these, then what? You open up some braces, and whatever you want to do, you can do it inside these braces. Now, if what you want to do is just a single line of command, you don't need braces, because braces is used when you have more than one line. So this brace is here redundant, but here I'm just putting it to have the code more organized. So that would be something like, hey, yeah, days equals what? 31. Then, yes, then since I have 2 lines of code in that if, then I need what? I need to put it in braces. Now, else if. Now, in MATLAB, pay attention, else if is one word, and in Python is elif. In C++, it's else if, and they are separate. There is a space between them. So pay attention that each program is doing their else if differently. So it's else space if. Now, if it's 4, 6, 9, or 11, right, November, September, June, or April, then it has 30 days. And again, here, you can open up a braces for else if and put whatever you want in it. So here, you can say what? Day is 30, right? Else, if it's none of those 2 aboves, if it's not those month, the only option is, of course, what? February, month equals 2, right? Because you consider all of the month except for what? 2 here. And so else, which is equivalent to saying else if month is 2, then now if it's 2, you don't know whether it's 28 or 29 unless you know whether it's a leap year or not. So now inside this else, instead of just saying the month is 28, the number is 28 or 29, you have to have another branch of decision making. What is it? I have to now look at the leap year. If the leap year variable is yes, if the user said this year is a leap year, then I say 29, right? And I can add that here. If the user said what? No, it's not a leap year, else, which means it's not y, it's n. If the leap year is n, no, then it's what? It's 28. So it's something like that, correct? So here you see I have nested ifs, right? This if and else is nested within the else statement. So this is if and nested if, right? So this is a simple example of what you can make, what decisions, type of decision makings you can make using what? If and else if. But if and else if are the most complete, I would say, and the most powerful decision-making tools in any programming language. There are some other ones that are quite a bit interesting, and they are available in C++. One of them is called ternary, or you might call it question mark operator. And what this one is, this is what you do with this. You say, hey, days equal either 28 or what? 29. Forget about this part for a moment. So this is what you do. You say days is either 29 or what? 28. So this column acts as like or. Is it either this one or this one? Now, how do I make a decision? Which one? Based on the answer of this question. Is leap year equal to y? If the leap year, and that's your question mark, is leap year equal to y? Is it? If yes, then give it the left value. If not, give it the right value. So this guy here is equivalent to what? Equivalent to this whole thing, basically. Of course, only the part of it that it assigns the days, not the part that it shows the message on the screen, right? But this single line is equivalent to that whole inside if-else statement. That is exactly doing that. And then, since I want to show a message on the screen, how do I do it? Well, since I have days, I say cout this month is so many days, right? I bring that variable days and I do it. So one way to do it is using this guy. The other way to do it is using this one. And I'll show you both ways, right? So first using the nested ifs, okay? Let's go ahead and do it. So here I run the code and it says, well, what is the month? And I say month 8. Right off the bat it says, is it a leap year or not? And I say, well, it's not. Then it says it's 31 days. Now here is a part of programming that you have to do better. If it's not 2, ideally it should not ask this question. If this month is not February, you should not bother asking about whether it's a leap year or not. So although I gave the right answer, August is 31 days, but that's not a good practice. So if you want to make your program what? Nicer, I would take this part out. Okay, and I say else if what? If it's not any of those months, it's February, then go ahead and ask this question. You see what I'm doing? Ask question where it should be asked, not just in a place that it should not go. So let's do it again. So I say 8, and right off the bat, 31 days. It's not going to ask anything. Now let's do it again. This time I say 2. Now it's going to ask, hey, is it a leap year? Yes. Then it says 29 days. And then we try it another way. is 2, and then it's not a leap year, and that's 28, and then we can try a month with 30 days, right? So let's say September, and done, right? So you see clearly the code is working. And then, as I said, instead of this statement here, that's this interior if that determines the days and shows it, I can use this ternary operator. So here I'm going to comment this portion out, right? I'm going to comment this part of the code out, and I'm going to use this ternary operator, right? And this should produce the same exact result. So let's go ahead and do it. So it's 2, and then it is, yes, a leap year, and you see it's working just fine. And you can try the other case too, right? So as I said, these 2 lines will perform the job of this whole part here. So ternary operator or question mark operator, and what? If, else, if, else. These are 2 very important operators for decision making. And the last one we're going to talk about is switch. So what is switch doing? Switch is the same thing. The thing about switch is the number of branches of switch is as many as you can or you want to have. So for if, it's the same thing. If, you can have as many else ifs as you want, right? And typically you can consider else for the case that is not covered in all of those above scenarios. That's the same thing for switch. You can have as many cases as you want, and if none of them is the case, then you can have a default. In MATLAB, we say otherwise, and then this is considering a scenario that is not covered. So what is this code doing? You want to get the name of a day of the week starting from Monday or 1 from Monday, and then once you give it the number, it will tell you which day of the week it is. So if you give it 1, it says Monday. If you give it 7, it says Sunday, right? And instead of me having this if statement and say if day is 1, say Monday. Else if day is 2, say what? Tuesday. And I have a bunch of these ifs, else ifs, and double equal signs and else. I do it with the switch statement. And in switch statement, you take the variable which you read in for the day, which should be anywhere from 1 to 7. And you say, hey, put that variable d into the parentheses in front of the switch, and then you open up the switch block, and you say case, in case, if that number is 1, in column, go ahead and say Monday, and then break. I'll talk about this break in a second. Case is 2, show Tuesday, break. Case 3, show Wednesday all the way down to case 7, say what? Say Sunday, and break. And if none of them is the case, default, say, hey, you entered the wrong number because that number is supposed to be between 1 and 7. If you enter 0, 8, -1, that should show you something, right? And this is what I would use. So I'm not going to use this default for showing Sunday. I always consider a case that the user does not abide by the rules and give me an invalid input. I always try to handle invalid inputs, and that's what I do for default. Okay, and that's what you should do also in this code. If the user entered a number other than 1 to 12, how would you handle it, right? So instead of that, then I would do this else if. I would change this else to else if and say month equal 2. And then I would add an else, and in the else, I consider that the month is less than 1, bigger than 12, and it's not integer. And then I throw an error at the user, which we're going to see in a future video, error handling. But in general, always assume that the user might give you something that is not working, just to see whether, even if they are good programmers, they just want to see if they can break your code or not, okay? And here I did it with the default. Now the default does not need a break case, because what is the break doing in here? Why should I need a break? And that is one of the things that you see in one of my future videos, break and continue. What break does is it basically terminates a case, okay, and terminates the switch. So if case is 1, show Monday and then break the whole switch and go to the line after switch, which there is nothing, which is just returning 0 and terminating the program. If I don't do this break, what happens? It shows, let's say the number is 1. It shows it's Monday, but instead of terminating the switch, it jumps down to what? To the line after the cout, which is case of 2. Okay, now it might show you something else, and so on and so forth. So if you do not use the break, pay attention, then the commands below the break will be executed. And I'll show you that in a second. So you make sure you have a break after each one of the cases except for default, right? Let me show you that. So let me run this. What day of the week is it? 5. 5 is Friday, done, right? Now take a look here. I get rid of this break. What day of the week is it? 3. It's Wednesday. Is 3 Wednesday? Well, let's go take a look. Yes, it is. And it is working just fine. So apparently I have no problem. I just got rid of one break here and it was good. Now let's do 1 in this case. Right? What day is it? Now look. I said 1 and it's supposed to give me Monday, fine, but it gave me Monday, Tuesday. Why? Because it ran this line and then it goes to this line. It didn't break anything. And that's interesting. Although D is not 2, D is not 2, but this line will be executed, which is quite a bit, to me, it's quite a bit weird. It shouldn't really, because it should compare that D against 2, and since it's not the case, it should not even go there, but it does, and it runs that Tuesday, and then it reaches the first break, and then what? It stops. If I kill this break, then I would get what? Guess what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Let's take a look. You see? So that is a little bit out of ordinary to me that it should not do it, but it does. Okay, so apparently when one case is confirmed, then it goes ahead and show the message, but it keeps going until it sees a break, and it keeps executing anything on its way. So for all of these cases, you need a break to run it properly, okay? Just keep that in mind for the switch case. It's a little bit, I would say, counterintuitive compared to if else. I personally would rather always use if else, if else. To me, that's the most intuitive, that's the nicest one. It's the most powerful one because I can combine logical values and I can make complicated conditions. In switch, you cannot do complicated conditions. All you can do is look at the different scenarios for value of a single variable. That's all you can do. You have a single number or a single character or something, look at all the scenarios and then come up with some commands. You cannot combine all of these logical conditions together using AND, OR, XOR, and so on, and make it very complicated. So if you want complicated logic and decision making, the way to go is if, else, if. Okay, that's way better than any other thing, but again, these other tools are available for you. Hopefully this video was useful to you. I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.